Hello everyone, hope you are all doing well. Today we are talking about something that we all deal with. Sometimes in the middle of the night when we are trying to sleep, sometimes in the shower when our brain decides to bring up one awkward moment from like 10 years ago. Yeah, regret. You know what I mean? We have all had those what if moments, those what if thoughts that creep in like uninvited guests at a party. What if I had taken that job? What if I had told them how I really felt? What if I hadn't sent that text? What if I had made a different choice in that split second that changed everything? If you have ever replayed a moment over and over, wondering how things could have gone differently, this episode is for you. Before we get started, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel to be in the loop for when I release new content. Okay, we are going to talk about why regret hits so hard, why we experience regret so intensely, why we tend to idealize the choices we didn't make, how our brains trick us into thinking the other path would have been perfect, and most importantly, how to shift your perspective, how to stop regret from keeping us stuck, how to stop letting regret mess with your present and future, and start using it as a tool for growth. And to kick things off, let's talk about a classic movie that captures this feeling, regret, perfectly: Sliding Doors. Okay, if you haven't seen Sliding Doors, let me break it down for you real quick. It's this 90s movie with Gwyneth Paltrow, and it's basically all about how one tiny moment, whether or not a woman catches a train, creates two totally different life paths. A woman catching or missing a train splits her life into two different timelines. In one version, she makes the train, discovers her boyfriend is cheating, and completely changes her life. In the other version, she misses the train, stays oblivious for longer, and her life unfolds in a totally different way. It takes a totally different turn. And isn't that kind of how we think about our own lives? It's such a good example of how we all get stuck in this fantasy of the life I could have had. What if I had said yes instead of no? Or no instead of yes? What if I had done this or that? We obsess over that one decision, that one missed opportunity, one moment, thinking if we had just done this one thing differently, our whole life would be better. We would be living our perfect life right now. Maybe you regret not moving to a new city when you had the chance. You picture yourself thriving, meeting new people, having the career of your dreams. But is that really what would have happened? Or are you imagining the idealized version and ignoring the possible downsides? Or you regret staying in a relationship too long when deep down you knew it wasn't right. Or maybe you regret breaking up with someone and now you're thinking, what if they were the one? But are you remembering the real relationship or just the polished up highlight reel? Could be something small too that somehow feels huge, like not speaking up in a meeting or not following a gut feeling. But here is the thing we forget. Life doesn't just branch off into good choice and bad choice. It's not that simple. Every path has its ups and downs. And just because one door closed doesn't mean the whole house is gone. Regret is tricky because it doesn't show us the full picture, only the parts that seem better than what we have now. That's the thing about regret. It almost only shows us the best possible outcome of the path we didn't take. It's a highlight reel, not the full reality. One of the biggest reasons regret hurts so much is because we tell ourselves a very selective story about how things could have been. And here is how our brain plays tricks on us. Our regrets almost always assume that the alternative path would have been better. But would it? Maybe, yeah, sometimes. But what about other times? We don't know. Let's say you regret not going after a dream job in another state. You picture this amazing, fulfilling life, new friends, a perfect apartment, and a career you love. But what you don't picture is the possible downsides. Maybe you would have felt lonely, struggled financially, or realized the job wasn't what you expected. Or maybe you regret breaking up with someone thinking, what if they were the one? But are you remembering the real relationship or just a romanticized version of it? Are you overlooking the parts that didn't work? Regret is like a movie trailer. It only shows the highlights, not the full, messy story. So why does regret hit so hard? Why does it feel so heavy? Why does our brain love to torture us with thoughts of what could have been? Regret makes us feel like we should have known better, like we missed out on this perfect timeline. A lot of it comes down to the fact that our brains are wired to seek certainty. When we regret something, we are basically looking for control, trying to fix the past in our heads so we feel like we still have some power over it. But here's the truth. We can't know what would have happened. Even if we could rewind time and choose differently, maybe we would just have a different set of challenges. Who knows? There's also something called counterfactual thinking, which is a fancy way of saying our brains love playing the if-only game. Upward counterfactual thinking is when we imagine how things could have been better. For example, if only I had studied harder, I could have gotten into my dream school. Downward counterfactual thinking is when we imagine how things could have been worse, which actually makes us feel better. And an example for that could be, I didn't get that job, but if I had, I might have been miserable and burned out. So what does that tell us? Regret is only based on a fantasy, one that only focuses on the best possible outcome, not the full reality. Alright, so we have talked about how regret works. Now let's talk about how to stop regret from eating us alive, from controlling us, from running our life. How do we stop obsessing over choices that we can't go back and change? To be able to handle regret and move forward, we should try to reframe it. Here is what worked for me in some situations. Flip the script. Ask, what if it had been worse? We always ask, what if it had been better? But let's switch it up and say, what if it had been worse? You regret turning down a job. What if it was a toxic workplace and you dodged a bullet? You regret breaking up with someone. What if you had stayed and wasted even more years in a bad relationship? You regret not going to a certain school. What if you had gone and ended up with a job you did not even enjoy? Sometimes we escape bad situations without even realizing it at the time. You tried to make the best choice you could at the time. Your past self didn't have a crystal ball, right? We tell ourselves things like, I should have known better. But guess what? You didn't. Not because you were foolish, but because you were working with the knowledge, emotions, and circumstances you had in that moment. For instance, if you had to make a decision after a traumatic event, you might not even be able to think clearly during that time, right? You ever look back at your younger self and cringe? Like, who let me dress like that in middle school? That's proof you have grown. And the same goes for decisions. You weren't the person you are today when you made that choice usually. If you regret how you handled a breakup or a friendship ending, remind yourself, you didn't have the wisdom then that you have now. And that's okay. No decision guarantees happiness or leads to a perfect life. Every choice has trade-offs, struggles, and unexpected twists. Even if you had taken that other path, you would have faced different struggles maybe. Instead of thinking I missed out on the perfect life, we could try shift it to I'm living a life that still has some potential. Okay, I know sometimes It's not easy to think like that. There are small regrets and there are big regrets, right? But we could try to think in a way like this maybe. Let's say you regret staying in a safe job instead of traveling the world. The reality, travel isn't all Instagram moments, right? It's lost flights, culture shock, and financial stress, like feeling a lot of exhaustion sometimes. These are included too in that journey. Every choice has trade-offs. Regret can sometimes actually be useful if we treat it as a teacher. Ask yourself, what does this regret tell me about what I truly value? How can I use this experience to make better choices moving forward? How can I apply this lesson to future decisions? If you regret not telling someone how you felt, let that be a lesson to communicate more openly now. If you regret not taking more risks, start making small ones today. If you regret not traveling when you were younger, maybe now it's time to start planning small trips instead of just dwelling on the past. Maybe regrets are trying to teach us something. If you regret not speaking up in a meeting, next time you'll make sure to. If you regret not spending more time with someone, you'll prioritize your relationships moving forward. Instead of letting regret weigh you down, let it be a compass pointing you toward better choices in the future. I know, again, like it might not apply to everything, but we're trying to do our best here, right? We're trying to just make things more positive for ourselves for the future. The best way to silence regret is if there is anything you can do now, even if it's a bit late. If there is still slightest of chance, do something now. If you regret losing touch with a friend, reach out today. If you regret not pursuing a passion, start a side project. If you regret wasting time in a toxic situation, start making choices that align with your values now. There's a quote I love. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. Regret keeps you focused on the past, but change happens in the present. The things always keep changing. Life keeps flowing. So you might still have some chance to change the situation, who knows? Try to explore those options. Try to make peace with the sliding doors moments as much as you can. Maybe you didn't take the job, but you gained skills in another role that led you somewhere even better. Maybe you missed an opportunity, but it forced you to create a new one for yourself. Maybe you lost someone, but it taught you to value the people still in your life even more. Life isn't about getting every decision right. It's about learning, evolving, and making the best of wherever you are now. Here is something I want you to think about. Some of the things you regret now might actually be blessings in disguise. Maybe we don't know that yet. Think about a time in your life when something didn't go as planned. Maybe a job rejection, a breakup, or a missed opportunity. At the time, it felt terrible. But looking back, you might realize it led you to something better, something you wouldn't have found otherwise. For instance, maybe you regret not getting a certain job, but because of that, you ended up in an industry that truly fits your passion. So what if instead of seeing regret as proof that we messed up, we saw it as part of the journey, redirecting us to where we were meant to go? So here's my challenge for you. Take one of your regrets you have been holding on to and flip it. Instead of thinking about what could have been, ask. Instead of seeing it as proof that you messed up or failed, see it as evidence that you have grown, that you have learned, that you are human. What did I learn? How has this shaped me in a good way? And most importantly, stop being so hard on yourself. You're not the same person you made that choice. You have grown, changed, and you're still writing your story. Again, trust me, I know it's not easy depending on what it is and how it has impacted your life. But remember, Just because one door closed doesn't mean another one isn't already open. You just have to turn around and see it sometimes. Okay, if this episode resonated with you, I would love to hear your thoughts below in the comment section. Have you ever had a sliding doors moment? How do you handle regret? If you found this video helpful, share it with someone who might need this reminder and give the video a like so that more people get to watch it. Until next time, be kind to yourself, your past self included. Bye now.